Okay, so I want to make sure this is clear because I know in my book, in my current book that's out, I talk about antibodies and cancer is an infection, which is a lot of antibodies. And of course, it causes growth. Let me see what I said in here. Because I know infection causes cancer. There's a direct correlation. I probably didn't explain it correctly, like totally correctly in here, but that's okay. That's why I'm writing another book to make sure that I completely just. Okay, cancer. Okay, abnormal cells. When you have compound bleeds, okay, antibody or infection in your microbiome can cause infection from disturbances in the never-ending vicious cycle. That okay, cause more infection and create benign malignant tumors from abnormal cell replicating over no, then the application of antibiotics. Okay, all right. So I did talk about that, and I with the imbalance of antibiotics. Okay, and the anti-inflammatories. It's such a trip because it's such a balance between everything, right? It's such a total balance. But I want to make sure people understand this, and for me too, because I have to understand this at the major level. Oops, sorry. Okay. So when they're using antibodies for tumor growth, because you can create antigen, you can take the antigen from a tumor and program it to then create antibodies and inject somebody with their own antigen of that tumor, and then that antibody will go do a search and destroy. And those are like the vaccination cancer therapies where you do a search and destroy type of thing. But what happens is that you can also have antibodies that will also induce tumor growth. So it doesn't always take away tumor growth. Like antibodies, yes, it's antibody, anti-life, and you can create an over-replication of life, but it also can promote tumors in other areas. So that's the thing, is that anytime you mess with Mother Nature on either end of the spectrum, where you take away life, promote life, try to tweak the genome and try to tweak the microbiome, you're always going to cause some kind of overproduction or underproduction somewhere else. Okay, so I was right around the cancer. I just wanted to see how I said it, because some of this information, like I kind of know in my head, but to say it out loud, like really say it out loud. So cancer, this is in my book. Cancer is the uncontrolled growth of abnormal cells in the body. Cancer develops when the body's normal control mechanisms stop working. Old cells do not die and instead grow out of control, forming new abnormal cells. Or new cells are trying to grow and you can't handle the new growth because you haven't released the excess. And so, um, yeah, that's your evolution. So then these extra cells may form a mass of tissue called a tumor. Some cancers, such as leukemia, do not form tumors. In turn, as for my book, more antibodies get created to keep the balance, which is true. I mean, your body, whenever you have some kind of imbalance, the body can produce antibodies, okay, which is true. And so then that's when also too they try to create synthetic antibodies from taking your own antigen and injecting you with it. So, but also too, there is the synthetic antibodies, excuse me, immunity against cancer cells. So in this article around using monoclonal antibodies to induce an immune response, later we identified autoantibodies to TrkB in the plasma of breast cancer patients. In order to study the effect of such antibodies on cancer growth and progression, we selected and purified 2 TrkB autoantibodies using our human combinatorial antibody library containing antibody genes from patients' peripheral blood lymphocytes. One of these antibodies was shown to be an agonist, while the other was an antagonist. Functional studies showed that the agonist antibody promoted tumor cell growth, while the antagonist antibody inhibited growth. Our work shows that individual autoantibodies may significantly enhance tumor growth in cancer patients. So you have to realize that the way they use antibodies trying to tweak stuff can also cause cancer in patients as well. So those that are like, oh, antibodies are great, they're there to target tumor growths because they're antibody, anti-life. Yes, it's anti-life, and you have tumor growths to turn into cancer, but they also can be agonist antibody, promoting tumor cell growth. You're like, well, how does that happen? Because you have so many things happen simultaneously. You have so many different systems in your body that you can't possibly think that if you try to tweak one, that the others are not going to get affected. You know, when I do when I do a copy and paste of something and I have like, you know, one word that's in italics and then the rest of the words are in regular form non-italic, and I try to go over the whole thing and turn it into all italics, it switches the opposite. Okay, so the one that's in italics turns into a regular word and everything else is in italics. So if I want to actually switch something back to whatever, I have to go in and individually switch that one word to then look like the rest of the paragraph. Okay, I don't know if you ever write or do typing, you know, you might know what I mean. But that's the thing. It's no different than when you go in and tweak different things in the system. You switch something on, you'll inadvertently switch something else off and not even know it. Or you might know it, but you're like, well, we'll have a pill for that and switch that back on, and then there's a pill that switches something else off and then switches that back on, and then it's like a chain reaction of events, and then the person's a freaking mess. Okay? So so this is for those who are like, oh yeah, antibodies are great for tumors. Yeah, okay, on some aspects, but then also it can turn into an agonist, promoting tumor growth. So antagonist antibodies are anti-tumor growth, agonist antibodies promote tumor growth, and that's like oxymoronic, but you live in a world of oxymorons. You live in a world of irony when you're dealing with biotech tweaking your shit, literally. Okay, I had to make sure I really understood that, because I don't want someone to come back to me like, well, the antibodies are for tumor growth and da 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 da, and I'm like, psh, they also attack good cell tissue. They also shut down vital organs. Okay, so antibodies are not your freaking friend, and I know that innately, but I had to articulate it and substantiate it, and I found the substantiation, and that's my whole point. Substantiate your belief system, or else you're just coming off the freaking cuff. All right, bye.